Hello everyone! On the 25th of June 2018, Development Diary number 5 came out. You might notice that today is, well, it might be Thursday, it might be Friday for you. Pretty much the reason for that is, even though I expected more or less how this would end up panning out, I was still pretty disappointed and I was a little upset, and I kind of wanted to sit on things and see if, you know, maybe things would smooth out a bit. But I don't know. At this point, I'm just kind of indifferent, but we'll talk about that. I'm not gonna go over the development diary. I mean, if you haven't seen the other 3 or 4 videos that have been posted, I mean, hell, even I think A-Spec has a video on the development diary. As is, pretty much, they say, look, that you're gonna have pops. They say their pops are gonna have a religion and a culture and happiness associated with them, which means that if they have differing religions or cultures that don't mesh well with yours as a country, then their happiness will suffer and may even get unrest, and that's going to affect their production and all of that stuff. So, I mean, what I said might not be exactly right because I'm just kind of trying to get through this all. There's 4 types of pops, we already knew about that, and they kind of talk about exactly what those pops are going to do. Maybe they'll do more, maybe they'll do less. Who knows anymore? The way that Johan's been talking on the forums, it sounds like he's leaving out a lot of information, so we don't really have any idea if we even have the full picture on a lot of this stuff. Basically, pops will give you certain things, and their production's going to be affected by their happiness, and then you can adjust your population ratios by promoting either slaves into tribesmen or freemen with 10 religious power, or promoting freemen into citizens using 10 oratory power. Cool, I guess. Really what it comes down to is the system isn't dynamic. The most dynamic thing that happens in this system is that a population unit will be growing or dying at any given time, which is boring. It's as boring as it was in Stellaris, and I don't know why Paradox seems to think that this is a great way to go. I don't know. Johan is Johan. He has his ideas, and he thinks that they're great, and, you know, maybe he's right. Maybe everybody hates having dynamic population, but I'm going to talk about what I would have liked. I'm going to sit up a bit, too. So, ideally, to me, if I were going to design a population system, you would have pops. They would grow and die. It wouldn't just be one pop growing or dying, though. There could be multiple. Probably not a ton, because then you'd end up taxing, you know, a lot of calculations that don't need to really be done. But you could have a few different types that are growing and or dying at the same time. These pops would have their own culture and religion, but those cultures and religions would also change over time. Similar to Stellaris, actually, where, you know, they'll get their own ideas sometimes. Not only would they get their own culture and religion that they sometimes come up with differently, but you'd have ways to influence them, which it sounds like we might have ways to do that. There's a quote here that there are ways for assimilation at the very least, but that's not going to be talked about until later, so we have absolutely no idea what that means. Talking about how happiness of pops will be modified by ideas and inventions makes me think that maybe you can influence pops in other ways by ideas and inventions, but who knows. Either way, what I'm getting at is that the way that a population system should work in a metaphorical sense, let's say, is like when you are sailing a ship. Some days, the wind is blowing in your direction, and you can just go full speed. Some days, the wind's gonna be not blowing at all. And you know what? You're not gonna make any progress. You're not going anywhere. Some days, the wind's gonna blow against you. And if you don't know what you're doing, that's gonna reverse your progress. If you do know what you're doing, you might be able to still make a little bit of progress, you know, tacking back and forth and heading in the right direction. And I think that's how a population system should work. Pops should be their own thing. They shouldn't be something that you just click a button and tell them what to do, because that's boring. The way that population is in this game right now just sounds like EU4 development. And you know what? I don't touch EU4 development because it's boring as hell. It's a lot more fun to just go conquer. I'm probably never going to mess with this pop system. Maybe a little bit here and there. I'll click a button a few times, but really when it comes down to it, it doesn't sound like you really have to. All you gotta do is set up a couple ideas so they don't get too upset and revolt, and you'll probably be done. At least that's how it sounds to me. At the end of the day, I feel like Pops should have their own brain, their own mind, that they're doing their own thing. And you can steer them in the right direction, but you can't always get them to go that way. Sometimes they're just gonna butt heads against you, and you're just gonna have to deal with it as a country, right? The way that Pops are in this is, you know, it is what it is. Johan's the designer, so I can't tell him what to do. I do think that he's wrong, but I don't have the same data that Paradox has on their player base, you know? I don't have the same analytics. I don't have a marketing team and all of those people telling me, at least giving me an idea of what people that play Paradox games want. And you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe there's just a vocal minority speaking out against all of this stuff, but it sure doesn't seem like it. If you go on any forum in the last few days, it's been interesting. It's been a lot of upset people. Most of it's been pretty civil, but there's been a lot of upset people. They do talk a little bit about how you can modify Pops and do things. I'm going to be watching this mod stuff pretty closely because I really feel like the system isn't right, and I really hope that there's going to be a way to create a more dynamic system that actually makes sense to me. Because as is, I just don't see the reason to even have Pops. I just don't understand why they're there. Why not just have city modifiers? Why is it a Pop? What makes it a Pop? Because it can grow and die? Like, it just seems paper thin to me. So there's been a lot of talk, as I said, on the forums and other places. One very interesting thing is, if you, for example, conquered Carthage, you could maybe empty its population and send Roman citizens there to replace it, to effectively, you know, assimilate. This is going to be ineffective from Johan's own words, and he gives you a long list of why that is. So, yeah, don't expect anything like that. There's the assimilation thing, which we don't know what that is, so maybe it'll be another click a button, spend 100 oratory power, and now this city magically loves you because they're magically all your culture and religion, but who knows? They're not telling us yet. Johan got a little upset because there was quite a bit of upset people out there. He, reminds everybody that this is a sequel to EU Rome, and that there are a couple times where he basically says, we do things this way because this is how the last game was. But then he also kind of goes back on that at times, where he says, will higher classes promote themselves like they did in EU Rome? No. So I'm not entirely sure where the dev team and design team is falling on. We're going to stick to the old game, but we're not going to stick to the old game. They haven't really explained that all that much. There's no cooldown to promoting Pops, but who cares? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can tell I'm not exactly happy about any of this. I'm a little disheartened. Say it took the wind out of my sails. How about that? There's also another thread recently, I think when was this? There's a place where it says when they created, there you go, Monday. Yeah, okay, well. Anyways, Johan basically is saying that pretty much all games that Paradox plans on creating from now on are going to be using mana resources, which I also think is wrong. I can understand the use of mana resources in specific cases, and sure, you could have mana in every game, but the way that mana has been used in the last few games has been a little bit lazy, in my personal opinion. It's kind of ridiculous when you have an entire nation in EU4 that's war-weary and about to revolt, and then you click a button to send a few letters out. I don't even know what the diplomatic power is supposed to really represent there, but all of a sudden, people forgot about their dead children and move on with their lives? I don't know. The way that mana has been implemented in a lot of these games has been kind of frustrating. And look, Johan specifically says in a few different ways that Victoria 2 pops are not the kind of pops that people want. And you know what? I agree. Victoria 2 pops were too much. It was too much minutia. Too many different kinds of pops that do different kinds of things and are helpful in this situation and not in that. And that, I disagree with using Victoria 2 pops in every game. That's dumb. You know what? You could have 4 pops. 4 pops that do 4 specific things. But they also grow on their own. They come up with their own cultures and religions. They do all of these things on their own. And if you steer them right, they're going to be happy and healthy and productive, and if you steer them wrong, they're gonna revolt and hate you and do all of those things. But I don't know, I'm just rambling at this point. The dev diary is up and available. It's posted in my Discord, and I'll put it in the description here if you want to check it out yourself. Yeah. At the end of the day, I disagree with the design decisions of this dev diary, you know? I could care less about dumb little things like some people are upset that plebs are freemen instead of citizens and what. All of those semantic things are whatever. You know, it's not 100% historically accurate because it can't be. Like, making everything perfectly historically accurate for Rome means that you can't play any other nation. I don't know. It's either you make everything accurate for one nation and that's the only nation you can play, or you make everything accurate for a bunch of nations, but then you have not even near the amount of nations they plan on putting in this game. I mean, you wouldn't... A developer team would have to spend years and years just making nations. It would just be stupid. So, you know, when little things like that happen, I think it's stupid that people are complaining about it. I do think that there are some serious arguments about the last dev diary and, you know, the way that units are created and used and all of that, but names don't mean shit to me. I don't care about any of that. Either way, the dev diary is in the description if you want to check it out yourself. If you want to talk about it some more, we've been talking about it in my Discord quite a bit, and I'll put the link to that in the description as well. And, yeah, that's about it. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all later.